I'll be reading from John's Gospel, chapter 2, the first 11 verses. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. And when the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Now, draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they did. They took it. And when the steward tasted the water that had become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. I'd spent my whole life preparing for my wedding feast. Yet not even in my wildest dreams could it have been so grand. And when the tiresome duties of being a wife began to fill my waking hours, while drawing water or baking bread, I could look back again and again to remember the wonderful ways that God had blessed me and my family and my life. The day that Jesus performed that miracle that saved my wedding. Now, in Palestine, weddings are supreme social occasions for the underworked and underpaid and heavily taxed. They're a time when people can relax and enjoy good food and good wine and hearty laughter. According to our law, the wedding of a virgin must always take place on a Wednesday. Yet, those festivities last much longer than one day. So after the ceremony that evening, we began our journey to our new home, led through the village by the light of flaming torches, with a canopy over our heads, taking the longest route possible so as many people as possible could wish us well. Newly married couples don't usually go away for a honeymoon. No, they stay at home for a week, keeping open house, and where they are treated like kings and queens. We even dress like royalty, and our word is law. That night, our servants came again and again bearing wine for the cups of our guests, until at one point they hesitated. And I wondered what was wrong. Rather than being eager to serve, they seemed embarrassed. And I was embarrassed when I saw them off with our master of ceremonies on half of a cup. How dare they insult him that way? Then I saw my husband's eyes meet the eyes of the steward, and somehow I knew we had no more wine. Oh no, I cried, what can we do? Our guests will think we're stingy or foolish or even both. Because for any Jewish feast, wine is absolutely essential. But not that our shameful, because actually we use a mixture of 2 parts wine mixed with 3 parts water. Still, anytime a host fails to provide for their guest, it's a disaster. Hospitality is a sacred duty. If provisions for our wedding feast failed, it'd be a terrible humiliation for our families. What could we do? I mean, we didn't have any hidden skins of wines go fetch or money to buy more. I did the only thing I could. I prayed. Help us, God, because you are our only hope. I mean, how can we ever face our family and friends if our wedding feast ends in disgrace? Oh God, somehow, let the end of this feast be just as bountiful as the beginning. Somehow. I wasn't the only one who had seen alarm in the eyes of our steward. Mary and Jesus had been watching me all night, sort of enjoying the glow of my happiness. So sitting as close as they were, I knew they must have seen the worry on my face. As I tried to catch my husband's attention, I moved a little closer to them, and I was horrified to hear Mary whisper to Jesus, "They have no wine." How had she known that? I mean, had some angel told her? Oh, forgive my humor. You see, Mary had been my mother's closest friend since childhood, and I knew all the miraculous stories about her, including the ones about Jesus' birth. She and my mother shared many secrets. Maybe my mother had told her, but however she knew, and then she told Jesus. It was like she expected him to do something. Well, I, of course, was embarrassed, and I was worried about what he'd think. Yet I was even more surprised by his response. "Woman, what does this have to do with me? Has my hour come?" But he really didn't speak with anger or reproach, as it was later rumored that he did. Actually, he spoke with gentleness and love and respect, as if to say, "Oh, Mother, just don't worry about it. You don't always have to know everything. Do we know if this is the right time and place? But just don't worry, Mother. I'll take care of it, but quietly, in my own way." Still, he hesitated, knowing that if he met this need supernaturally, then his life would never be the same. And it was true. After that, the small town seclusion that he had enjoyed was forever lost. Over the next 3 years, his only time alone was in an olive grove after dark or on a barren hill before dawn. Fellowship with God came only at the expense of sleep because, well, the needs of the people were always so great. During the day, they pressed him from every side, and wherever he went, to the cities, to the hillsides, or to the seashore, people and their needs were there. He was the topic of gossip among women, and he was the object of debate among men. With scribal precision, every jot and tittle of his teaching was tested against our rabbinical tradition. So I could see how we needed to weigh his alternatives. I could even see him wrestling with the situation. Maybe it was too soon to act, since, most of his plans for ministry were still more like pencil sketches in his head, waiting for color and dimension from his Father. And yes, I mean his Heavenly Father. There was another time he hesitated, when he prayed, "Father, if you're willing, let this cup pass from me. It is so difficult to swallow," yet he accepted it, saying, "Not my will, but thine be done." Just as he submitted to his Father in Gethsemane, Jesus submitted to his mother in Cana. Turning from his own questions to the needs of those present who desperately needed this festive pleasure that this feast offered their lives. He turned his thoughts to our parents, knowing how frazzled they had been with all the preparations and how indebted they had become to even provide this feast. And he turned his thoughts to us, knowing that being filled with shame and embarrassment was no way to start a marriage. I mean, we needed his help, and his heart went out to us. When Mary saw that he had made a decision, she marched into the kitchen with confidence and authority, and she told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you to do." Now, 6 big jars at the door each held 20 to 30 gallons of water for our purification rites. You see, our robes were not surfaced, and our sandals were merely soles attached to our feet by straps. So on a dry day, our feet were covered with dust, and, well, on a wet one, with mud. That water was for washing our feet before we entered a home, and also for our hand washing. Strict Jews not only washed their hands before a meal, but between each course. The hand is held upright as water is poured over it to run down to the wrist. And then the hand is pointed downward as the water is poured over it again to run down to the fingertips. Finally, each palm is cleansed by rubbing it with the fist of the other. And unless we follow these rituals, our hands are unclean. Jesus followed his mother to the kitchen, and he did command the jars to be filled to the brim with nothing but water. And then he told the servants to draw some out and take it to the steward. And when our master of ceremonies tasted the water, having no idea where it had come from, water which had now become wine, he was astonished. He called my husband over, and he jokingly said, most people serve the good wine first. And then after the guests' palates are dulled, the inferior wine is served. Yet you saved the best until now. Without a word from his lips, or even a touch from his hand, Jesus had willed that water into wine. He performed a miracle to satisfy the needs of others and to save a couple of starry-eyed newlyweds from embarrassment, acting in sympathy, kindness, and love. He used his power to save our wedding feast. And he did so much more than that. You see, that was the day he began to save me. That was the day his presence and his power began to transform my life. The day I began to believe Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. That was the day I learned about the importance of faith, the abundance of God's grace, and how miracles truly happen. I learned about the importance of faith. See, Mary's faith was a shining example my life. I mean, instinctively, she turned to Jesus when something went wrong. People who know Jesus intimately, instinctively turn to him when things go wrong. And they never find him wanting. And even though Mary didn't understand what Jesus was going to do, she still believed in him so much that she told the servants to do whatever he said. I mean, she had faith to trust that even if she didn't understand everything involved, she may not have known what he was going to do, but she was sure he would do the right thing. You know, we all have periods of fear and uncertainty in our lives when we really can't see the way clearly. We don't understand or we know why these times come, and we usually don't find much meaning or purpose in them at that moment. Yet blessed are those who have faith to trust Christ even when they don't understand everything involved. You know, I also learned about the abundance of God's grace. As I said, each of those pots held 20 or 30 gallons. And so when Jesus turned water into wine, he gave us nearly 180 gallons. The point is, when Jesus' grace comes into our lives, there's always, always more than enough, with some to spare. I mean, no wedding party on earth could drink 180 gallons of wine. And there is no need on earth that can ever exhaust God's grace, because there is a superabundance in it. What Jesus did in Palestine that day, he still wants to do today. It's not just that he turned water into wine. It's more that when Jesus comes into your life, then a new quality comes too. It is a quality that is like, well, water becoming wine. Because without Jesus, our lives are like water, you know, rather flat and drab and tasteless. And when Jesus comes into our lives, they become vivid and exciting and new. So if you're looking for a new sparkle, of exhilaration in your life, then consider becoming a follower of Jesus Christ. I mean, the change will truly be like turning water into wine. But most importantly, I learned how miracles happen. You know, miracles are a mystery, so we're naturally very curious about them. And we always want to know who is responsible or what conditions are needed, you know, that sort of thing. And some say, since miracles are God's business, only God is needed. And others say, well, since there's really no such thing as a miracle, any questions about conditions are sort of meaningless. Yet the truth is, God needs workers for miracles. God needs miracle workers. The miracle at my wedding feast began with Mary's faith. Even if some things about her son were puzzling, one thing was clear. She believed that he could and he would save the day, and he did. But the second major contributors were our servants. See, I'm not really sure if they were impressed by Jesus' authority or simply a little intimidated by Mary's insistence, but whatever the case, they did exactly as they were told, which was remarkable. Now remember, those pots were not containers of drinking water. They were containers of wash water. When Jesus told them to take water from those jars to the steward, he was making a daring request. I mean, water in place of wine is one thing, but wash water? Those servants are truly the unsung heroes of this story, and I marvel that they would even risk their jobs on such a reckless venture. Yet it was only when the steward pronounced the wine something special that the miracle was complete. Truly, the power for the miracle came from Jesus. But the miracle itself belongs to Mary and our servants. I mean, it couldn't have happened without Mary's insistence, and it certainly wouldn't have happened at all without our servants. See, in our society, it would have been inappropriate for Jesus to take the wine to the steward himself. He was dependent upon the servants and their daring, almost foolhardy cooperation. And that, my friend, that's the real stuff of which miracles are made. Because God hardly ever does a miracle without our help. God needs our daring, almost foolhardy cooperation. Just like God works with us in the daily routines of life, we must work with God to perform miracles. And sometimes we don't even know miracles occur. For example, there was a Christian monk named Toledo. He founded the first asylum for the blind. There was a Christian woman named Fabiola who established the first hospital. And Apollonius, a Christian merchant, opened the first free drugstore. So you see, in a world where compassion was unknown and the sick and the handicapped were a burden to be ignored, it was a miracle that these people were driven by a spirit of unselfish love. Because that concern went completely against the tide. But God didn't do it alone. No. Alcius, Fabiola, and Apollonius were the servants, who bore the water which Christ turned to wine. We live in a time where miracles are badly needed, yet are in very short supply. Because we've been trained to be so skeptical, not only of our God, but of our own impulses, so that the miraculous has to struggle to be seen and heard. So that is why it's so important for Christians, people who do believe in God and who want to practice love and compassion and service, to be more sensitive and open to the possibility for miracles. How many prayers are often left unsaid because we're conditioned to expect nothing. So expecting nothing, we ask for nothing, so we get nothing. How many ventures are never even begun because, well, we just don't have the faith to dare. Too much of our living has the quality of a wedding feast that's run short of wine. Celebration and laughter have faded into the silence. Oh, we need a miracle to bring real joy back into our lives. So Jesus is standing there waiting to perform that miracle, which will indeed bring us the new life we desire, exciting and abundant and free. Yet miracles call for helpers. Mothers who will insist on giving Jesus a place and a purpose at the feast, and servants who will dare to deliver the water made wine. God will do the rest. Yet God is counting on us to do what only we can do. So what about it? Do we believe that God wants to perform any miracles in the church today? If so, who's willing become a miracle worker? Who's willing to be a servant who will bear the water made wine and participate with God as a worker of miracles right here?